Hello, and go after. Welcome to Sportsball Razzifarat, a show that provides answers to viewer-supplied questions from a modern-day Celtic Norse shaman here in South Central Alaska. Be sure to tune in each Wednesday night when the shaman answers questions from viewers like you. Come on, let's hear what the shaman is answering this week. Every day, someone's little girl, daughter, sister, girlfriend, fiance, wife, cousin, mother, auntie, grandmother, great-grandmother, elder, disappears, shattering, a family, a community, the world. There is something we can all do. Remember them. Like that.
Hello, go after my friends, and welcome to Sportsball this week. This week we have an amazing question, and that is, what is reality? This is a wonderful question. I've done a lot of prayers, and I've entered a lot of channel about this subject in particular for a multitude of reasons, but got some really good answers that I'm hoping that I can pass on to you that will hopefully answer this question. Wonderful question, by the way. Again, as always, for those of you who haven't had a chance, please like, follow, subscribe. For those of you who have, thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. Always looking to grow and gain the attention, hopefully, of those who really need to hear these messages. Remember, as always, here on Sportsball, if you want to ask a questions, by all means, visit our website at norsewhispers.com. There you can scroll all the way to the bottom, look to the left, big orange button that says Ask Me Questions. Pound on that bad boy, ask your questions, and if I make a show about your question, I'll send you ta-da! A free t-shirt for you to keep. No charge, no shipping, no handling, no nothing. You just get the shirt and wear it. Or put it on the dog, or use it as a seat cover. They work pretty well. As always, I want to say a huge shout and thank you to my wonderful friends and family at NewRealityTV.com. New Reality TV is a wonderful streaming channel with a collection, a plethora of spiritual perspectives that can hopefully help you and resonate with you to give you some intellect, that little piece of intellect that can just elevate your life to a better, happier, much more wonderful place. As always, if you haven't had a chance, you feel like it, and got some coins jingling around in the old pocket, want to get rid of, by all means, stop by our tip jar and drop those bad boys in there. We could always need the help, as this is between all the electronic stuff and the traveling, we do a lot. So I always appreciate the help. So today we're talking about reality. What is reality? Now, for those of you who may have seen the movie, The Matrix, you probably have one perspective of what reality is. A series of code that's programmed before our eyes that we can actually see, and, well, it's a little bit more than that. I'm sorry to dismiss that theory, but it's a little bit more than that, because everyone within this simulation, if you will, is all here for the same thing. We're here to learn our emotional journey, our emotional control, how to control those energies within ourselves to move forward. But everyone's here to do the same thing. So all the biological stuff that is the earth, all the plants, all the animals, everything, all those life forms are all here to do a thing too. And so it's where we have experiences, is where our experience of reality interacts with theirs. Okay, so they're doing their own thing, and by them doing their own thing, they create an experience for you that you want to learn, that you're here to observe. Now, one of the things that came to me very early in my career, anyway, in my journey of learning the shamanic trance and the shamanic visions, was this idea about Yira, the rune Yira. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with your runes, Yira looks kind of like that, if you will. It's a rudimentary form, but it'll do. And Yira is a seasonal thing. So it speaks about things happening during a certain time in our life, certain time of the seasons. So Yira really speaks to a cyclic event. So when we talk about moving from summer to winter, or day to night, or breathing in, breathing out, these are cyclic events, and each of those things occur at the right time. There's no shortcuts to them that we don't we don't. Now, granted, for those of you who live here in Alaska, you probably wonder about the weather going from summer to winter and winter to summer. Yeah, that's a I'm not sure what the season is, but the reason these things happen is because the only way we can see them is that we have reached a point in our lives, in our trajectory, where we can actually recognize them, right? So these things are occurring all the time, right? These things are occurring all around us. However, because we have a mood, remember the emotional filter set behind our eyes, we don't see them. We can actually program them out of our vision. And so we experience the reality without this thing in it. And once we are ready to accept this thing, whatever it is, that's when we will experience it. So now a lot of this kind of speaks to the ideas and the concepts and the theories behind quantum physics. Now, quite honestly, quantum physics is just getting to a place today to explain what our ancestors knew thousands of years ago. They knew certain things and they didn't question it. Why? Because it was what it is. Why? Why do we question it? Right? So the winter's coming. Prepare for it. Get the wood chopped. Get the foodstuffs together. Get the heavy blankets sewn. Get the hut or the home all thatched up so that we didn't have any cool leaks. Make sure that the fireplace was ready to go. All of these things we were going to prepare for. Why? Because we just knew winter was coming. This speaks when we talk about the cyclic event of this thing called reality, and how things are going to occur that we experience. Remember, everyone's experience is a little different. No one experiences the same event the same way. That's on purpose, right? Because we're all going to see it from a very different perspective. So if we were to take, this cellular phone here and use it as an event, we're going to see it from all angles, right? And that's kind of the idea. The more angles we can see, the better idea we're going to have of this event, the more we're going to know about it. And that's really why we are all, well, among many other reasons, that's the primary reason when we talk about experiencing things from a different perspective. When we begin to step outside of our blinded view of something and we open our vision to include now other people's perspective, other individuals' perspectives, we're beginning to grow in our understanding of what things are. Reality really is our interactivity with others' interactivity. So where those two fields meet. They're interacting with their version of reality, and we're interacting with ours. And the experience happens when those two interactions bump into each other, i.e., we see someone on the street who may be dealing with some emotional issues, maybe dealing with some mental struggles. They're fighting their own battles. They're, winning, hopefully. They're winning their own battles. And our time, our season says, maybe if we could offer some other people some advice, and again, recognizing there is no expectation, which means if I offer you advice, I'm not requiring you to follow it. I'm just simply saying, here's my experience, here's my advice, and take it for what it's worth. If it means something to you, if it resonates with you, hey, use it. It's yours. It's free. If not, discard it. I'm not going to be hurt. Why? Because I simply offered you my experience. Nothing more. I simply retold you stories of my life, of my adventures, and how I got through a similar patch. Okay? I'm not at the same exact patch. I don't see it from your exact perspective. I'm simply offering advice. And no matter how well-meaning we are, we can never stand in their shoes. We just can't. We're structured differently DNA-wise. We've had different environmental influences. We've had different daddy or spiritual influences that have all shaped us differently. Not to mention, remember, for those of you who follow the morning show, I talk about the well of the self. Well, the well of the self, at the bottom of that well, is a beautiful collection, by the way, a collection of rocks that represents our intrinsic values, the virtues that drive our decision matrix, our way of understanding and dealing with life. Okay? So those values are unique to us because we've had different authority figures throughout our lifetimes who have given us these rocks, who have said, oh, this is a really important rock, you should have it. And if we didn't deny the rock and say, hey, no, thank you, I'm good, right? Then our rock pile is ours to build, ours to arrange, ours to put value in, okay? And it is through this rock, this mosaic, if you will, of rocks at the bottom of our well, at which our values alter our perception of reality. Simply put, when we experience something, think of them as single snapshots in time. Okay? And that snapshot comes in through, and we'll just say through our eyes. It's the easiest to explain. Ah, yes, Alaska, one of the greatest flight areas in the world. Anyway, this vision comes in through our eyes. Our eyes then convert this image to bioelectricity. So we're going to send this bioelectricity over the optic nerve back towards the brain. Now, as soon as it gets on the optic nerve, travels a few micromillimeters, it's going to run into this thing called the emotional filter. Now, as I'm explaining this visualization, this is all done really from a bio or a physiological perspective. It's all done in the brain. Well, most of it is anyway. But understand that when we visualize something, it's easier to recognize. It's easier to see. It's like drawing a map to somewhere, right? It's so much easier when you got the map and you can follow the steps. So when this imagery is converted to energy, placed on the optic nerve, passed into this thing called the emotional filter, based on what you were just feeling in the last snapshot, is how this snapshot is now interpreted. So if this snapshot was, we'll say, discouraging, that filter is applied to our emotional filter to now filter out those things that might bring us joy. We're going to push those to the side, and we're going to absorb process that which supports that mood. Okay, so if we're in a good mood, we see all the beautiful flowers. We see all the wonderful, beautiful scenery and people and all these things. We're going to see them, and our eyes are going to be drawn to them. Our brain is going to know to look for them because we're in a good mood. That filter now sees the things that support it. Hey, I said you're in a good mood, and look, there's a beautiful flower that's just growing and just getting ready to blossom. Isn't that beautiful? It supports that mission, right? So our emotional filter is the first alteration of the energy created through, in this case, the optic nerve. Now, as soon as I hit the emotional filter, we're going to hang a detour. We're going to plummet down into the well of the self. Now, the well of the self, as we've discussed plenty of morning shows, is simply like a water well that you would visit on an old farm or anywhere where you look down into the well and it's about half filled with water. And it's at the bottom of this well, through the water, you can see this beautiful mosaic of rocks just laying over the bottom. It's coating the bottom. This energy, this bioelectricity, is going to pass through the water, through the rocks, to a receptacle or to an energy source at the bottom of the well. Okay? Now, the energy that's come in through the eye has already been altered by the emotional filter, dropped down through the well. It's going to ripple and go through the water, so it's going to get manipulated there by some of our internal processing. And then our values, our intrinsic values, are going to alter it again. Now, at the bottom of this, based on our intrinsic values, as the energy comes out of that well, if you will, the bottom, it's going to be converted into biochemistry. This is where your heart is now involved. So we've dropped a signal from here to here. The heart is going to release hormones into the bloodstream. So these hormones release around the blood then pumps all around the brain and eventually winds up in the brain, right? So, but as this energy is coming up from the heart to the brain, it's going to go through this thing that my ancestors referred to as the sheath of truth. Sheath of truth, again, is a tube that essentially limits the bandwidth of how much emotion we can handle. Some of us are fairly small, others are big, and there is no gender relations. There's no nothing, right? This is all genetics for the most part, as to how big this tube is. Now, it also comes back to ego. Ego has a tendency to crush the tube, whereas vulnerability and openness and peace and harmony has a tendency to open the tube, where we can handle more emotional energy. The energy is processed through that. Once it reaches the top of the tube, because it's coming up, right? And we're going to go through this last little moniker, and that is the me gate. The me gate, of course, gives us the option to make a choice. We have a choice. We always have a choice. You can always decide how you want to feel. Okay? And that's just, you have all the authority, all the energy you need. If this energy packet is delivered to this me gate and it's discouraging or frustrated or angry or disappointed or whatever, we have the choice where we can just say no. Close the gate. The imagery associated with it, with the experience, the imagery comes through. The energy is stripped of any emotional energy, and it's stored in memory. Now, there will be a little bit because we've said no, right? So there's a little intrinsic pride there. We've said no, and we're changing our direction. We want to be happy. We want to be glad. We want to be whatever. So we're going to attach that to the memory as it goes into our memory, right? And just before it goes into memory, it's going to fire off a signal that's going to then set the emotional filters for the next present, right? So all of that's going to happen in like an absolute millisecond of time. It all processed through, poof, your emotional filters are ready for the next present. At the same time, that energy also alters the water in the well. Again, using the analogy of the well of the self, it's going to kind of clear away some of that rippling effect. It's going to clear away any murkiness that may exist based on values that we may not be fully embracing, or values that we may be starting to find holes in or whatnot. Those are going to create murkiness within the water in the well of the self. And so as we clear those away, this next piece of energy comes down to clearer water or murkier water, whichever way you're going, right? It's also going to set, at that moment, it's going to also set the space within the aura, and finally, the border. We're going to set the frequency of the border of our aura. Now remember, for those of you who have been with me for a while, you know auras have two major parts, right? So they have the internal part that's kind of around us, and it's, all the space kind of around us. And then at the very edge, we have this thing called the border. And the border kind of fluctuates based on a frequency. And that frequency is directly tied to your emotional state. The cloudiness within the aura, within this space of the aura, is based on how much processing your brain is doing. So if the sheath of truth is just overwhelmed and we're flooding in and around the brain, your aura is going to be unseeable. I mean, it's clear, or not clear, sorry, it's a cloud, it's a wall, right? Because your brain is just totally overwhelmed. And so with the brain totally overwhelmed, the aura being filled now, total smoke field, we can't generate energy intrinsically and promote it extrinsically. We can't send energy out. Why? Because it's getting diffused in the smokiness of our aura. Okay? So it's really important that we kind of have control of this to maintain a clear aura. And when we maintain a clear aura, then it's easier for us to communicate outside to other spiritual entities, our deities, even to our significant others. So if we got a lot going on in our brain, it's going to be hard for us to communicate extrinsically. Okay? So this is an understanding of how we think. Now, as I mentioned, this energy is now going to set the emotional filter. And as we started talking about this whole process, we said the emotional filter alters the imagery that comes in. And I'm using the visual input, but it works for audio, taste, smell, even touch, right? Everything is altered by how you feel. So if you wake up, and as an example, and this is the one I always use, we wake up on the wrong side of the bed, everything we see, everything we experience is going to support that mentality, that mindset, right? So people are going to cut us off in traffic and road rage and all of these things, right? Because our mind is already preset to picking out those things that irritate us, right? Because we have set the mood, we've set that emotional filter in such a way that it's going to support that message. Okay? Conversely, when we wake up, we're totally refreshed, we've had a wonderful night's sleep, everything is beautiful, we wake up in this beautiful sunrise, and maybe on some beach in some faraway place, and man, it's so beautiful and wonderful, and we just wake up in this wonderful mood. Everything we see is going to support that. So we'll see the flowers, we'll see the bees making their rounds through the flowers to gather pollen. We'll see beautiful, light, fluffy clouds dashing across a beautiful blue sky. Or even if it's raining, we'll see the silver lining on the clouds. Why? Because we're now looking for those things that bring us joy, that bring us happiness. Our brain is preset to find those things in the imagery it receives, or in the sounds it receives, right? So this is really a way for us to control our experience of reality. Is that when we are in a good mood, we're going to experience a reality. When we're in a bad mood, although we'll experience the same reality, we'll see a different perspective of it, right? And we have that power. That's the power of the Me Gate. The Me Gate is a very, very powerful tool that we can use to now force a change in our perspective, changing this emotional filter to now allow us to see the more beautiful things, to experience them, right? It's a wonderful visualization that allows me, I know I'm speaking on my own side, again, this goes back to the offering my advice, but it really helps me to understand how I think the way I do. Why do I see the grumpier things? Well, because I'm in a bad mood. So that's on me. I can change that. I have that power. I have the authority to change the way I feel, i.e., the way I see my world, the way the world seems to be, right? So reality is simply an interactivity between two or more spiritual entities or spiritual existences interactivity. When they meet, that is reality. It's a tough concept to grasp. Now, again, many people kind of throw a whole lot of influential energy around, again, and you are free to see this world however you want to see it. You can see, and there are certain things, i.e. social media, i.e. some of the media, actually most of the media, whose job it is, I don't know if that's the right descriptor, I think it's more of who feel some value, perceived value, in showing us the negative sides of life, showing us negativity, and kind of brewing that. Or, if we are able to take control, we can now dictate that no, it's not all bad, it's not all negative. Here's beauty. Here's the beautiful parts of life. So it's all about our perspective, and our perspectives are set, and we can control that with our Me Gate. So your reality is what you want it to be. That is reality. My friends, I appreciate you visiting with me tonight. For those of you who have joined us, for those of you who join later, oh, you missed a good one. No, just kidding. I hope that this information helps you to understand just a little bit more about our journeys through this life. Yeah, it doesn't come with a manual. You're right, it doesn't. But it doesn't need one either. When we actively decide that we're in charge of our existence, we begin to take charge of our existence. And we begin to see the things that we want to see, the way we want to see them. So, it's one of those things. You have a choice. What are you going to choose? All right. Thank you again so much for joining me tonight. For those of you, again, who have questions, by all means, stop by my website, northwhispers.com. There, you scroll all the way to the bottom, look to the left. There's the big old button that says Ask Me a Question. By all means, kick those questions out. I'll be happy to just open a dialogue via email, or if I decide to make a show about it, right there, we will send you a free t-shirt in the mail. So, wherever you are, doesn't matter. I'll send to all countries in the world. Well, almost every country. I'm sure there's USPS, who knows. Anyway, we'll get a shirt to you if I have to hand deliver it. In the meantime, if you've got looking for a different perspective, looking for a way to maybe embrace your spirituality and your spiritual journey through this physical existence, by all means, check out New Reality TV at newrealitytv.com. There you'll find a multitude of perspectives many different ways that may resonate with you more closely aligned with the way you see your world. So check it out. What do you got to lose? We'll see you tomorrow, where we'll talk about the power of Thor. That's right. We'll be talking about the Norse god Thor and his mental strength. Not as much as physical, but as much as mental. So please join us at what time? 7 o'clock? 7 o'clock in the morning, Alaska time. And we'll see you there. Love and light, my friends.